So welcome back. I'm going to talk to you about a few things on the car that kind of need to be pointed out. I've been asked some questions about, you know, before you go out for your first run, what do you need to do? So we're going to talk about ride height, camber, and just various things to check over. I would do a slip assessing, but I need to get some wheels and stuff on. I was thinking I might do that in another setting, do it at a track, and we can focus a bit more on it. So I'll just go into it. One thing to add is I want to talk about after the run, what we're doing. So checking things, making sure nothing falls apart, and just simply going from there. Doesn't matter what car you drive, this is the thing to do, well, that I do and that I'd be advising anyone else to do. I don't see why not. So one thing that I want to talk about is with the diffs on the laydown. I get people talking to me about, oh, there's some play in it and stuff like that, and yeah, there might be, but we'll look at what that play is that you're feeling. We've got the geared diff here. This is the one that I built in the previous video, and you can look at the side view here. So you've got the output and the body, and as you can imagine, there's a small shaft that pokes inside only a certain distance, and this can actually offer you some wobble if we don't shim out all of the play. And if we did shim out all the play, what we'll get is a tighter O-ring fit. And the unfortunate thing of that is we tune with the shims the feeling of the diff. So by running one shim everywhere means that you actually get an output that can move. To show it on the video is very difficult, but we can wobble up and down. And a lot of the time I get the racers yourselves coming up to me, and they'll show me, oh, it's moving, but thinking the whole diff's moving, but it's not. That's all being held pretty well, and I can just talk to you about that in a minute, to make sure that it's held really well. But your output actually can move up and down. It's done it on all of our cars. This is something that people have noticed a bit more with this car, when we only had like one shim each side, but I'll talk about the shims in a second. So the output movement, absolutely fine, nothing gets hindered by it, nothing's breaking because of it, and it's all absolutely fine. So yeah, don't fret about it. You can get rid of the play, but you'll lose performance because of the O-ring fit will be squished. So get your diff, grab it yourself, you know, before you've got all the grease and everything on it, and feel that output and recognize how much that's wobbling. That's not your diff moving, that's your output moving on the diff, and there's no issue. Everything self-aligns when it's going, when it's under load. It's all absolutely fine, and we've survived for many, many years. No issues at all with this. Is something to comprehend. What we'll do is now is we'll drop it in the car. What we have in the kits, and if it isn't in the kit, let us know. But there should be 3 shims each side. So I put these 3 small shims in. And what we do is get it on the camera so we can see. Right, so that's that. I've got these 3 shims already there. And you can see the shims here. Nice little steel rings. And they're both sitting in place. We then put the bearings in. Again, keep these bearings clean. I find that I get a lot of people that let them get all black and mucky and horrible, and just check them, check that the bearings are moving smoothly and they're very operational. You can service them. These are grease filled, the red ones. And you can take them apart, clean them with alcohol and re-oil them, so they're more like an oiled bearing. But that would be for another video. I think there's various ones on YouTube already. And we're just going to drop that in. With the 3 shims each side, this should now have a nice tight fit. We're racing outdoors with this car, and we're just going to drop it in. I found the drive shaft ends, and I'm going to drop it in. Okay, so that's in place now. If I tilt that up, if we look at our left to right play, my finger's covering it up. We basically have nothing with the 3 shims each side. That's it. We'll use my left hand to do this, and we'll just kind of try and move it. And you get literally, I'm forcing the plastic. I'm putting quite a bit of force on here. It's all right. What you might get is that the eccentric can wobble backwards and forwards a little bit. In reality, its meshing isn't changing a lot. You can force it, so it seems like it is a lot, but once you've got the top on, it will make it nice. I have had some people put a little bit of tape on top because they weren't so sure. But to be honest, myself, Michael, Yawn, You get Danny and all the other kind of like the real top drivers that you guys have been watching. We don't do anything. We build it as per kit, 3 shims each side, and we don't have any issues. One thing to watch out for is the grease that you put on the gears. If you use black grease, there's an additive inside it which actually breaks down plastic, so don't use that. We offer axle grease in the kit, which is okay, but I suggest looking out to try and get some like PTFE based greases, Teflon based, lithium grease as well, and apply it. I've got the dry lube on this. You can see it's kind of rubbing off onto the main gear now as I'm turning it around. But you put that on, it doesn't fling off and it stays very well lubricated. So we do a gear lube at Schumacher, which is very good. If I just get it out of my bag, give me 1 second. You have to give it a good shake. So this is the nice product here. It's a dry fluid extreme gear lube, high-end jet stuff. Okay. If that's how the name's spelled. I don't recommend drinking it, inhaling it, or anything like that, as I talked about with the silicone oil. Okay, and we'll put that on. What you'll notice is when you put it on, it looks like when milk kind of separates, but once it dries, it goes really nice. So I'll just put some extra on here, and all I do is I'll rotate it round carefully to make sure it covers the rest of the gear. And just run a bit all the way down the centre. Okay, and we just turn that round, and the last bit now. There we go. And I'll just rotate it so it spreads it. And don't be afraid to add any during a meeting. There's nothing wrong with keeping gears lubricated. Obviously if you add like lithium grease or some of the other greases, it just adds and adds and adds, and everything's going crazy. You just don't want things to dry out. Obviously this is dry lube, so that's the principle of it, but it's designed for that. It leaves PTFE all over the gear and makes it slippery, which is great. So once that's together, I would just be popping this on the top. I don't have the screws with me, but this was for an example. But that's together. But keep an eye on these things. Keep an eye on your gears. If you have any trouble, just let us know. We're here to help, and we want to help you get through all of this. So contact us at Schumacher Racing. My email is trish@racing-cars.com. Check it out. Just not check it out. There's nothing to check out. Just find me an email if you're having any issues. But to be honest, we've got a great team. Contact any of the guys. Talk to them. See if you're doing something wrong. But generally, you should be absolutely fine. I've got the white acetyl gear in there, just a little bit stronger, perfectly machined. When you have a moulding, you can get some deformation like I talked about before, but you should be fine. But if not, there's always an option that you can go to the harder one. Not harder one, but just a little bit stronger. So that's that. I'll just put this out of the way. So the next thing to talk about is what to do just before doing a run. Obviously I did mention doing your slipper clutch. The only tricky bit with doing the slipper clutch in this car is I have the 13.5 blinky motor, because I'm doing a bit of stock practice ready for the EOS championship, and so I want to do some learning. I'll be putting a video online, or would have already, I don't know when that factors in with this, and we're going to have the slipper lockout on this. Well, we've already got it on there. So the slipper lockout, it's this fine unit. Ooh, I don't know if it will pick up on the camera that well on pick outs, but it will be on there and you can enjoy it. Basically the joys of a slipper lockout with 13.5 is you save something around 22 grams, and that's great. I've got gear ratio, can't remember it off by heart. Actually, we'll look in the book. I've got the Cougar Laydown manual here. And at the back, a lot of people don't realise what gear ratios they're on and what's considered to be appropriate. If you've moved to us from another brand, you can actually look at what gear ratio they're on, and we'll call it 8.3. And about, right, well, how can I achieve that on my Laydown? On my Laydown, 8.3, you can do it with a 76 spur gear and a 23 tooth pinion. But normally for like carpet racing, you're going to want to be on something like between in the 9 area, so you want to have like 9.2 with the 80 tooth pinion, and that would be good for your carpet racing. For outdoors, I suggest going to the 23 tooth pinion, but get some optional spur gear. So the team over the year, we've migrated to the 76 and the 78 spur gear, and be running like a 23 with a 76 or a 78. So you get your 8.3 or 8.5, kind of loads up the bottom end a bit more. If you've got a torquey motor, it will just stop it kind of getting into the mid-range a bit quicker, so it just smooths it out. That little wobbles, the car wobbling as it gets out. My gear ratio, I'm on a 20. What am I on? Let's double check that. So I'm on a 28 tooth, and then a 71 spur. So that puts me on 6.42. I can go higher if needed, but that'd be only if I'm running 17.5 stock or something like that. We don't actually race stock in the UK. It's a bit of a sore subject for some. It's done in touring car a lot, but I'm doing it mainly because of the EOS. So before I go out for a run, I've already checked my slipper, but on this car, I don't need to. We need to make sure the battery's charged. How many people have kind of gone onto the track, done about 4 minutes, and the battery's gone flat, and then they check it, oh, didn't charge the battery. That's the one still on the charger. The other things to check is your ride height. Ride height's really critical. Get a nice board to put your car on. Fortunately, my mat is very, very flat, because it's mounted on a nice piece of wood. So we'll come along and we're gonna slide the ride out. I'll go for this camera angle, see if it's happy with me. I've got it set to 14.5. Right, the one thing to do for ride height is, well, to consider is, I get a lot of people, they drop it down and then they check their ride height and do it again. Fine. If you can do that exactly the same every time, then you're going to be all right. Sorry if the camera's jumping around. I give it a prod. Push down to the chassis, let it find itself up. It can fight gravity and find its position. I do that. You can put the body shell on, or you can leave the body shell off. You just need to consider, if you're running someone else's setup with their ride height, did they measure the ride height with the body shell on? If they did, then you do that. But if you're finding your own setup, as long as you repeat it the same every time, you don't follow what other people do, you'll be right. So I've got this set to 14.5. I'm going to slide that in. I'll give this a little tap on the shock tower. I've got about 0.5 mil to come down there. I'll adjust it down, give it another prod, try it again. So we just check that. That's fine. And then we just check the rear. And that's okay. And just check it on the corners. If it sounds like someone's knocking on the door, you're doing all right. So just check the front on the other side. It should be all right. It's pretty narrow at the front, so I can't see it. Yeah, so we've got like a tiny, like a 0.2, 0.3. Be all right. Once you put the body shell on, it'll be a little bit lower. It's like 26 grams, 30 grams, which will push it down. Next thing is check your camber. I have a lot of people that don't bother. So I'm going to run 1 degree on the back of this car. At the moment, I'm not completely sure if that's 1 degree. So I'm going to turn the wheel around a couple of times. Wheels can bend a little bit. They might not always be perfect. So just get an average, have a little look. And if it turns that on average you are not where you need to be, add a bit more camber or take it off. So I'm just going to bring it towards myself. I have all my turnbuckles pointed to the left on the whole car, so when I turn it around, I know which way to turn it, as well as when you're working on things quickly, it helps. So I just give a little turn, and that comes there. I'm happy, give it a rotate, and go around there. Check the other side, pretty good, turn it around again. Alright, so I'm just going to go halfway house, make it a little bit longer on the link. That's 1 degree. Generally, if talking about ride height and cambers and stuff like that, you want to be running for like carpet racing. If it's super high grip, if it's like Silverstone circuit, you could run like 14 mil ride height, no bother. But if they got lots of little bumps, raise your car up a little bit. It'll be all right. You're not going to flip over. It's going to be fine. Then you've got kind of the older kind of the EOS carpet, which has been used a little bit, run that more like 15 if the grip's a bit low. Let's say it kind of grip up. If it's super new, run it at 14. When you get onto AstroTurf and it's really, really smooth, you can get wherever like 17, 18 mil. Then you get to longer pile AstroTurf and bumpier AstroTurf and lower grip AstroTurf. You want to run towards like 18, 19. Don't be afraid to raise the car up. It's not going to hurt it. You need the car to roll to generate grip, and if you're not doing that, it's not going to happen. So we need to introduce roll and get what we want from the cars. The next thing is when you get to clay, we run 22, 23 mil ride height. Whereas if you go to, when I've been to OCRC and we've been traveling abroad on the higher grip clay, you can bring the car back down towards the 20, 21 mil ride height. Remember, you've got bigger tires, so if you start decking it down, all your roll centers go out. So, but we'll talk about that at another point. If your wishbones are where they were kind of designed to be for generating grip, then they're going to generate grip. So you've got to always consider that. So that's that. So I've checked my camber, my ride height's good. I'm ready to do my run. My battery's charged. Don't plug it in backwards. Always plug it in the right way round. It doesn't hurt to kind of take your time with that one, but it does hurt the speedo if you don't do that correctly. Next thing, so just make sure all your screws are tight. My screws are tight. I ran this at junction 16 on Friday. And you just have a little look at everything, make sure it's all right, and if not, you can come in with your driver and check like suspect ones which you've noticed going loose. Yeah, give these a little kind of a 1/10 of a turn. That seems right. Most of the ones in plastic shouldn't come undone. Everything else looks good. Obviously, the track owners aren't going to be happy. It's not good for the club. It's not good for racing if you're tearing up holes. I guess when you're on AstroTurf, you can get away with it a little bit more, but it's still not good. Like, the clubs aren't going to enjoy it when that happens. And then I guess on dirt, you're just going to be scoring the track up, and to be honest, you'll be trashing a screw even more. So this seems alright. I'm just going to check my joints on the car. So I'll be looking, oh, okay, right, fine. That's all looking okay. Nothing's broken, nothing's loose. Give it all a wiggle, give it a wobble. You'll find out what bits have elongated over time, like these shock tops. Am I worn out? No, they're still really good. Great. I've done quite a few meetings with this. This was a fresh car, kind of 8 races ago, and now it's still going alright. Have a look at the steering. Make sure your steering's got good Loctite amounts on it from when you first build it. Make sure none of that's coming undone. Another thing is check your servo horn. Is my servo horn tight? Have a good prod around. Don't be afraid to kind of get a driver and then try and kind of jack it off just in case it is loose. But nope, that's staying there. All my joints are nice. I'm happy with that. Can't complain. The one important thing is make sure your car works. Plug it in, give it a rev before you put it on the track. Make sure your steering's okay. Amount of times that we've thrown cars down, got up to the rostrum, you might not have turned it on, or there could be a problem. And do that not just a minute before you run, do that a couple of minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes. You might happen to have a servo gone down or a speedo issue or something like that. You've now got time to fix it. So that's about it for the getting the car ready for a run. But after a run, go back over all the stuff I've just talked about. Check your ride height, camber. Is anything bent? Is anything broken? Is anything come loose? Just go through that procedure every time, and you're going to have more repeatable racing that's just better and better. I hope you've enjoyed watching this one. It's a nice, I would say a short one, but it's like 19 minutes long. But the important thing is preparation. There's many verses of PPP, but the whole thing is, if you're young, you might not have heard this, but if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. Just remember that one. Focus on keeping the car really, really good, and see you next time. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you want to see. I'm going to do more and more of these videos. Ciao.